Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the AnzenGuard podcast. I'm Michael Reynolds,
And I'm Laura Wilson.
and we are so glad you could join us for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that, honestly, might surprise you.
It surprised me.
The potential privacy risks of antivirus software.
Yeah.
I mean, we use antivirus to protect our data, right?
Yeah.
But what if, and stay with me here, what if it's actually doing the opposite?
It's kind of a head scratcher when you think about it, right? Because for antivirus to actually do its job, it needs access to pretty much everything on your system. And so that means that it's gathering a ton of data about your, computer habits. And that data, my friend, it's valuable.
It is valuable. And I was reading about how, some antivirus companies, AVG and Avast, were actually caught selling user browsing history.
Oh, yeah?
And even, like, demographic info to advertisers.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like that old saying, if the product is free,
You're the product.
you are the product.
Exact.
It all makes sense now.
And it's not just about them, directly selling the data, right? The way some antivirus software operates can inherently be a privacy risk. Let's take HTTPS, for instance. That's the S you see in a website address, which means it's a secure connection for all of your browsing data.
So that's like a secure tunnel for my info.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's supposed to be nobody can peek in.
Gotcha.
But here's the thing. Antivirus can't see inside that tunnel.
Right.
And so some of them use this thing called HTTPS interception.
HTTPS interception.
Yeah, so think of it this way. You know how mail gets delivered to your house?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's opening your mail before it gets to you.
Oh.
They say they're just checking for, dangerous stuff.
Okay.
But now they've seen everything inside your mail, right?
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So essentially, antivirus software with this HTTPS interception is acting as a man in the middle.
Man in the middle.
Decrypting your data just to check it for threats.
Okay, but hold on a sec. That sounds kind of, I don't know, shady.
Right.
Is that even safe?
Well, there have been some cases where this interception has backfired big time.
Okay.
You remember the Kaspersky bug a while back?
Maybe. Remind me.
So their fake certificates that they were using were actually making users more vulnerable.
Oh, wow.
And then there's also the potential for this kind of interception to be used for tracking your browsing or even weakening your overall security. It's a real trade-off.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about these companies selling our data. It's about how the software itself can be a risk.
Exactly. Yeah.
What else should we be aware of?
Let's talk about PUPs, potentially unwanted programs.
PUPs. What is that, like when you accidentally download like a dancing banana and it takes over your screen?
Kind of. Think toolbars that you never asked for.
Oh, yeah.
Adware popping up everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You know those annoying plugins that just magically appear?
Yeah.
And guess what? A lot of free antivirus programs, they just bundle all this extra stuff in. Oh, come on.
We're talking like Avast, Komodo, AVG.
All the big names.
All the big names, yeah.
So are these PUPs considered malware? Are they dangerous?
Well, not always, but they can definitely track you and slow down your computer and just be generally annoying.
Okay, so it's that classic case of getting more than you bargained for.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
You think you're getting a deal, and then...
Yeah, then you get all this other junk.
Yeah. This is getting pretty heavy. Are there any other, potential risks that are kind of lurking out there in the antivirus world?
We need to talk about the elephant in the room. Government cooperation.
Yeah, I've heard whispers about this. What's the deal?
Well, there have been concerns about, antivirus companies giving governments backdoor access to user data, for intelligence purposes.
Sure.
The Kaspersky case is a prime example.
All right.
The U.S. government banned their software because of, suspected ties to Russian intelligence.
Right.
And it sparked this whole debate about security versus privacy. Right. And this isn't just Kaspersky. We've seen similar concerns with Huawei.
Exactly.
And other tech companies.
It's a global issue.
It makes you wonder, who are we really trusting with our data when we install these programs?
Exactly. It's a really complex issue with no easy answers.
Yeah. Even when a company has, the best intentions, things can still go wrong, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes the security software itself has vulnerabilities.
Of course, yeah.
Which makes users more susceptible to attacks.
Right. It's like setting up a security system at your house, but leaving the back door wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
It defeats the whole purpose.
Okay, so we've learned about a lot of risks here. I'm officially freaked out.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
What are we supposed to do? How do we choose an antivirus software that won't turn on us?
Don't worry, we're about to get into all that.
Okay, good.
But first, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a short break here on the AnzenGuard podcast.
Welcome back to the AnzenGuard podcast.
All right, so before the break, we were diving deep into, the potential pitfalls of antivirus software.
Right.
Even those that we think, oh, we're safe, we paid for it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
That's right. And, I think it's important to address a common misconception, right? That only free antivirus is guilty of these privacy sins.
So you're saying even paid antivirus software can be a privacy risk?
Exactly. Just because you're paying for something doesn't automatically mean that your privacy is guaranteed, right? It really all comes down to the company's practices, their policies.
So how do we navigate this tricky landscape? How can we find antivirus software that's actually going to respect our privacy?
Well, remember those lengthy user agreements and privacy policies that we mentioned earlier? Those might be tedious, but they are your best friend when it comes to making informed decisions.
Okay, but who actually reads those things? I mean, they're so long. They're full of legal jargon and,
I know, but trust me, it's worth taking the time to at least skim through them. Look for specific details on, their data collection practices,
Go ahead.
third-party sharing, and how exactly your information is used.
So we need to become, privacy policy detectives.
Precisely. You want to uncover those clues that reveal how a company handles your data. And don't be afraid to reach out to the company directly, If anything seems unclear or concerning, a reputable company should be transparent and willing to address your privacy concerns.
Got it. Transparency is key.
Exactly.
And speaking of transparency, we need to, circle back to a topic we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Government influence.
Yes.
Remember that whole thing about antivirus companies potentially cooperating with government agencies?
Right. That is a huge concern. The Kaspersky situation with the U.S. government banning their software, really brought this issue to light.
Yeah, it definitely, raised some eyebrows for sure.
For sure.
And it's not just Kaspersky, right? We've seen similar concerns raised about other tech companies too.
Exactly. It's a global issue.
It raises all these questions about, surveillance.
Absolutely.
National security. And the, delicate balance between individual privacy and collective safety.
It's a very tricky situation.
It's a tough one. On one hand, we want our governments to have the tools they need to protect us from, legitimate threats. But on the other hand, we don't want our privacy to be trampled on in the process.
Absolutely. It's a very complex dilemma with no easy answers.
Yeah, I agree.
But being aware of these potential risks is the first step toward making, informed choices about the software we use and the companies that we trust.
Okay, so government influence is definitely something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
So what about that HTTPS interception thing we talked about earlier?
Yes.
That sounded a little sketchy to me.
Yeah, that's essentially where the antivirus software is actually decrypting your secure browsing data in order to scan it for threats.
So even though I think I'm browsing securely, my antivirus might be snooping on everything.
Essentially, yes. It's like, imagine you're having a private phone call.
Okay.
And somebody's listening in.
So while it can be effective in blocking, malicious websites and things like that, it definitely raises some privacy concerns.
You're telling me. And you mentioned earlier that there have been cases where this interception has, actually backfired.
Right, like the Kaspersky bug we talked about, where their interception actually made users more vulnerable.
Wow.
And even if the interception is being done, with good intentions, it still raises questions about data retention, potential misuse down the line.
So what are our options here? Can we disable HTTPS interception?
Well, some antivirus software allows you to, disable it, customize the feature.
Okay.
Others, you might not have that option.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to do your research and, choose software that really aligns with your privacy preferences.
Okay, so HTTPS interception is another one to watch out for.
Definitely.
What about those PUPs? Those potentially unwanted programs?
Oh, yeah.
They sound like a real nuisance.
Oh, they can be. And unfortunately, there's often bundled with free antivirus software as a way for the companies to generate revenue.
It's like getting tricked.
Yeah.
You think you're getting this free protection, but then you end up with all this unwanted extra, stuff cluttering up your computer.
Exactly. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering a simple salad.
Yeah.
And then they bring you this huge platter with all these side dishes that you didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what is all this?
Yeah, I just wanted a salad.
Exactly. And these PUPs can be more than just annoying, right? They can track your browsing habits, collect personal information, even slow down your computer.
Yeah.
Some of them can be really tough to get rid of, too.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from these like PUP invaders?
The key is vigilance. You have to be vigilant during the installation process.
Okay.
Don't just blindly click next through every single screen. Take the time to read the options, uncheck any boxes for software that you don't want,
Got it.
like those PUPs.
Good advice.
Yeah.
And what if we accidentally install one? What can we do?
There are, luckily, resources available to help you remove them. Like Malwarebytes, for example, has a free tool that's specifically designed to get rid of PUPs.
Great tip. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Is there anything else that we should be aware of when it comes to antivirus and, the impact it might have on our privacy?
Well, there is one more thing. Remember how we talked about the irony of security software itself having vulnerabilities?
Yeah, that was a bit mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a real issue. Remember the Royal Bank of Scotland case?
Uh-huh.
A flaw in their antivirus software allowed hackers to steal customer data.
Wow.
It just goes to show that even reputable companies, they can have these security slip-ups.
Okay, so even if we, carefully choose our software
Right.
and avoid all the other pitfalls we talked about,
Yeah.
there's still a chance it could have vulnerabilities.
That's right.
It's kind of unsettling, honestly.
I know, but it's the reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's important to, choose software from reputable companies that prioritize security and regular release updates to patch those vulnerabilities.
So we need to be proactive
Hmm.
and make sure our software is always up to date.
Absolutely. Those updates, they often include crucial security patches that can protect you from newly discovered threats.
Okay.
It's like getting your car serviced regularly, right?
Yes.
Just to make sure that everything is running smoothly.
Great analogy.
Right. You don't wait until your car breaks down to take it to the mechanic.
No, you got to stay on top of it.
Exactly.
So staying up to date is key. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Before we move on to the final part, where we explore some practical tips for choosing, privacy-focused antivirus software, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
Go ahead.
The world of antivirus is constantly evolving. New threats are popping up all the time.
Yeah.
New technologies are being developed. And, the balance between security and privacy, it's always being renegotiated.
That's right. It's an ongoing conversation. And it's crucial for us as users to stay informed and engaged.
Absolutely.
We can't just set it and forget it.
Welcome back to the AnzenGuard podcast.
All right, so we've uncovered some of the, potential risks.
Yeah.
But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right.
We're going to finish strong by focusing on what you can actually do to protect your privacy without sacrificing security.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, right? So now that we're aware of these potential pitfalls, we can make, more informed choices.
So where do we start? We talked about, choosing antivirus software carefully.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to actually do that?
Well, first off, remember that free isn't always the best deal, right?
Yeah.
Free antivirus, it often relies on data collection and advertising to make money,
Right.
and that can compromise your privacy.
Yeah, it's like those free apps that end up knowing everything about you, but they're free, right?
Exactly.
So it's that same concept. That's not to say that all free antivirus is bad, but you really want to do your research,
I gotcha.
understand the trade-offs involved. Sometimes, paying for a premium antivirus might be a worthwhile investment if privacy is a top concern for you.
Mhm.
Paid versions, they're less likely to rely on data collection, and they may offer stronger privacy features.
Okay, so free isn't always the way to go.
Right.
But how do we know what to look for, even with, paid options?
Those user agreements and privacy policies we talked about?
Oh, no, not those again?
I know, but they're really your best friends here.
Okay.
I know they're long and boring.
Yeah,
But they really hold the keys to understanding how a company handles your data.
I get it.
Oh.
But seriously, who has time to read through, pages of legal jargon?
I hear you, but even just skimming them can be really helpful.
Okay.
Look for specific details on, data collection practices, third-party sharing, and how your information is used.
Okay.
If a company is being vague or evasive about their policies, that's a big red flag.
Right, transparency is crucial.
Absolutely.
And if something seems unclear, we shouldn't be afraid to, contact the company directly
Yeah.
and ask for clarification.
Exactly. A reputable company, they should be willing to address your privacy concerns, openly and honestly.
So we've chosen our antivirus software. Now what?
Okay.
What are some practical tips for, maximizing our privacy once it's installed?
Pay attention during the installation process.
Right.
Don't just click next, next, next through every screen.
All right.
Take your time, read the options carefully,
Okay.
and uncheck any boxes for, bundled software you don't want, like those PUPs.
Right, those sneaky PUPs, yeah.
Exactly. And speaking of PUPs, remember that they can be really tricky. They can disguise themselves as, like, legitimate software.
Oh, wow.
So even if you're installing something from a trusted source, be vigilant.
Okay.
Double check what you're agreeing to.
Got it. Don't rush the installation process.
Yeah.
And read everything carefully.
Exactly.
Any other tips?
Yeah, so once your antivirus is installed, take some time to explore the settings. See if you can customize the privacy settings.
Okay.
You might be able to, like, disable data collection features, limit third-party sharing, or control how your information is used.
Oh, so we might actually have more control than we realize.
Right. You might be surprised at the options that are available to you.
Okay, good to know.
And if you're concerned about HTTPS interception, see if your antivirus allows you to disable that feature, or at least be more transparent about their practices.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We've also talked about, the importance of staying informed about, like, security vulnerabilities and software updates.
Yes.
What's the best way to kind of stay on top of that?
Antivirus companies are always releasing updates, to patch vulnerabilities, improve security.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have automatic updates enabled, or just, check for updates regularly just to ensure that you have the latest protection.
Right, because security is an ongoing process. It's not just like a one-time thing and you're done.
Exactly. You can't just install it and forget about
So
it.
you got to be proactive.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
I know. It's been a long journey.
It has. But before we wrap up, let's just kind of recap some of the key takeaways.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We learned that antivirus software, while essential for protecting our devices, can come with some privacy risks.
Absolutely.
We explored how some antivirus companies, collect and sell user data, use HTTPS interception, bundle those, potentially unwanted programs, PUPs.
Right.
And we talked about, the issue of government influence.
Of course.
And the potential for antivirus software to be used for, surveillance purposes.
It's definitely a concern.
It is.
But we also emphasized that not all antivirus is bad.
Right.
There are, privacy-focused options available.
Yes.
And by choosing our software carefully, taking steps to maximize our privacy settings, we can strike a balance between security and privacy.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
It is.
And now that we're aware of the risks, we can make more informed decisions about our digital security and privacy.
Exactly. And remember, if you want to dive deeper into any of these topics, there are tons of resources available online.
Right.
Don't be afraid to do your own research and become your own privacy advocate.
That's great advice. We hope you found this episode, informative and maybe even a little bit empowering.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's all about taking control of your digital life, making choices that align with your values.
Oh, well said.
All right, that's it for today's deep dive. I want to thank you, Laura, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope you learned something valuable today.
Yeah, we hope you did too.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe to the AnzenGuard podcast.
And tell your friends.
Tell your friends, share it on social media. Let's spread the word about digital security and privacy. Until next time, stay safe out there.
And stay private.
This has been the AnzenGuard podcast with me, Michael Reynolds.
And Laura Wilson.
Thanks for listening.